What is the choice, you ask? The soul, the real you, the eternal you, the informational makeup of your every experience is solidly attached to whatever you connected with this side of death. That is the choice. It was the purpose of every breath you breathed, from the very first to the very last. There's no second guessing. There is no next chance. You either knew, paused to look around at the world, opened your eyes, or you wore the blindfold and stepped right on off of the cliff. No matter which, at that point, it is finished. Death consummates the choice. Our world religions have all too often been used as the mechanisms of calculated control over the masses. Conversely, our sciences focus on the raw data, the mechanics, without ever considering the scope of wonder in which we live. The spiritual consciousness which is so ever present in each and every single detail, if one were to simply pause and look around at it. The humility to admit that there are forces at work in every piece, greatest to smallest, that are much beyond the feeble understanding of our mere human minds. From the blades of grass beneath our feet to the trees that give off the oxygen we need, to our lips from which flow the carbons that they need in return, it is all connected. This is not by accident. For the blades of grass to the atoms that make up the cells in your skin, and even the stars in the distant heavens above, are all merely vibrations. In fact, creation itself is the grand symphony, a harmony of unbelievably intelligent energies dancing to make up what we call light, the matrix and construct of every piece of matter in the entire universe. Perhaps the very sweet voice from the conscious perfection of God's own heart. Indeed, it is not the stars that make the light. It is in fact the light which makes the stars. And amidst all intelligent wonder are the independent expressions of the Creator Himself, unique one from the other, capable of self-awareness, capable to connect to their Father, which is beyond imagination, the sons and daughters of God, mankind. Yet many, if not most, sons of God will never become self-aware. Like empty shells, they walk through this life from the cradle to the grave without ever asking the questions that matter most. Who am I? Where did I come from? What will happen next? They're driven like empty flesh, cattle in a herd that is heading for certain slaughter. They are enslaved by the very voices that come from every direction, voices that tell them what to think, what to do, what not to do, right down to the pushy little thoughts that they claim to be their own subconscious. Most never question any of it. They believe what is beaten into their heads by the world they see and the things that they cannot understand. They believe that they are powerless. This is, in fact, the reverse of the truth. Some say that the devil's greatest trick was convincing the world that he didn't exist, but I tell you that the devil's greatest trick was convincing mankind that he was free, while forcing him to put the shackles onto his wrists. When you find something dark in our world, particularly systems where men are trying to control others using mechanisms like greed and tension, ultimately fear, you will generally find the same cold emptiness, and often occult practices as well, and the lives originating beliefs of such men. It was Napoleon himself who stated, all rulers have gained their power through fear save one, Jesus Christ. The real questions in this life really do boil down to spirit. What forces drive us? Everything else is merely the collection of distractions along the way. In fact, if one were to take the eyes away from all the distractions, the trinkets, the need for social status, the burdens that seem to pile mercilessly on one's back as this day turns the next, you might find what words like purpose really mean. You might find that our human history contains much more than we understand. You might find that to begin to awaken, you need only ask. You might find that you have no need to go searching for God. He has been attempting to connect with you this whole time. Indeed, amidst all the oceans of darkness, you are designed to be a part, to become one with the light. A part of the most powerful light. You are in fact a child of the light itself. Yet amongst all of the voices, the illusions, what may seem as an infinity of choices, there are really only two: light and dark. Light is the dominant. Darkness is simply what fills any space that light is not. Yet it is the darkness that has been so ever present, like a haze over man's existence since the earliest of our beginnings, perhaps illustrating that just because one voice is the loudest does not necessarily make it the correct one. From the texts of our ancient cultures, the voices from our past, some written with painstaking effort and great detail on walls of sheer stone, like headlines of ages frozen in time. Man trying to describe very real things that were much beyond his reach and confusing to his understanding. From the Epic of Gilgamesh, which tells of a global flood, yet goes on to speak of the world's creation by that of a great snake, to the Egyptians who tell us that they were the forced servants of underworld gods, dark-winged beasts, the claimed givers of knowledge that came in the skies, and snakes that stood with legs like men to whisper in the ears of pharaohs, god-kings of stone empires of earth. Indeed, from the Babylonians to the Akkadians to the Syrians to the dragons of the Far East and the Naga snake deities of the Hindus, we are faced on what seems all sides by a long history of dark things, stories that we cannot explain, and more importantly, intelligent systems which do not seem to have our best interests at heart. And through all of the confusion, through all of the dark mess, some men have thrown up their hands and they declare aloud that there is no God at all. Yet by definition, the very definition of God with a capital G is merely the intelligent source from which all creation extends to exist.